Let's talk about current events. G'day and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you haven't been here before. My name is Kathy and this is where I talk about all the things that I am passionate about. First off, I wanted to send my best wishes to everyone in the States who is suffering through floods, power outages, food shortages, and lack of heat. My heart goes out to you, and I really do hope that things improve very soon. Today, I wanted to talk about a few things that have been happening which have made me angry enough to want to make this video. The first is Amy Cooper. If people don't know who she is a white woman, I believe in her 40s, also known as the Central Park Karen. She was in Central Park with her dog off lead, which apparently you are not supposed to do. A young black man, Christian Cooper, no relation obviously, asked her to leash her dog. She got so angry that he dared to suggest that she should follow the rules, that she threatened to call the police and tell them that an African American was threatening her. She knew full well that because she was white and he was a black man, that if she did call the police, they would quite likely come very quickly. Chris Cooper didn't back off, and I think he was recording her at this stage. So she went through with her threat, but the transformation in her demeanor was amazing. She went from this angry woman to someone who sounded fearful, in fear for her life, like she was on the verge of tears. Such a hypocrite. She deliberately, knowingly used her white privilege to put this man's life in possible jeopardy. Because let's be honest, we all know that the police do not treat black people well, and not just in America. And she knew that there was a possibility that he would be arrested for doing nothing wrong, and she wouldn't be. The arrogance of the woman, the blatant racism in what she did. Luckily for Chris Cooper, he was recording this. Not surprisingly, this video went viral, and not because of Chris Cooper. Actually, it was his sister who released the video. He has tried to step back from this incident. And Amy Cooper did suffer some consequences. She was fired from her job in a brokerage firm because of the racism in what she did. And the New York prosecutors did charge her with making a false report. I don't know why they bothered, because several days ago they dismissed all the charges. Why? Because she undertook 5, let me reiterate that, 5 therapy sessions on racial bias. What, she learned her lesson after 5 therapy sessions? She knows that what she did was wrong? Are you kidding me? Seriously. I even read something in the newspapers that her therapist believes they really did learn quite a bit. What? That what she did was racist? That was obvious from the beginning. How can we possibly believe that a woman who used her privilege and a man's race against him learned her lesson in 5 therapy sessions? It is a joke to assume that she learned anything. The way Amy Cooper handled this matter showed quite clearly she knew exactly what she was doing. She knew that there was a chance that she might have put Chris Cooper's life in danger. Because the irony is, on the very same day that this incident took place, George Floyd was killed by a policeman, kneeling on his neck for 8 minutes. And as we already know, that is certainly not the first time that police have killed persons of colour or black men. She knew. She knew very well what she was doing. Now, some may argue she was punished enough. She lost her job. And it's really not up to me to decide if she was or not. But what makes me really angry is that the prosecutors even bothered to charge her. Because even though she was charged, in return for undertaking these therapy sessions, the charges were dismissed like they had never been laid. That is what makes me so angry. They were paying lip service to appease all the people who were outraged at this incident, and in the end, didn't even really give her a slap on the wrist. It is outrageous that a person can display such blatant racism and yet get away with nothing more than undertaking therapy sessions. 5 of them. It is too much like conversion therapy, which we all know does not work. I do not believe that 5 therapy sessions are going to change someone's fundamental beliefs, particularly in relation to racism. As far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't have even bothered to charge her. Now, let's be clear that I don't think she should have gone to jail for this incident, but what the prosecutors did condoned her behaviour. Basically stated that if anyone displays such blatant racism, you just need to undergo some therapy and we'll let you off. As far as I'm concerned, she really did put Chris Cooper's life in danger. And anyone who wants to argue otherwise just has to look at what happened to George Floyd. I am just so fed up with hearing stories like this of people behaving atrociously, having no respect for anyone because they're different. What? Because Chris Cooper was black, he had to be put in that position? He shouldn't have been. I am so tired of so many people using our differences as weapons against us, whether it's our sex, whether it is our sexual preferences, our gender identity, our culture, our religion, or our race. It is wrong. It is morally repugnant that we use any of these factors to discriminate against people. We are facing a pandemic, and yet we are still disrespecting and treating each other like garbage because we're different. Why? We should be celebrating our differences. It is our diversity that makes us wonderful, unique, interesting. But no, it seems no. We have to all be the same. We can't have any differences. And if you are part of a minority, then you will suffer for it. You don't deserve to be treated with respect, with dignity. I'm so fed up with this world. Every time I think we've taken a step forward, we take 2 steps back. And if that wasn't bad enough, a young woman, very brave if you ask me, came out publicly to state that she was raped in Australia's Parliament House, our bastion of democracy. She was raped in a minister's office. No charges have been laid, but I read recently that she is looking to lay charges and that she is lodging a complaint with the police. When this news came out publicly, the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister of course, jumped up and down and said, I knew nothing about this and the Defence Minister should have told me. Because of course he knew there was going to be political fallout, which there has been substantial fallout. Well, now it is becoming apparent that his staff knew. But of course he is now saying, well, they should have told me and they didn't. It's bullshit. And we all know it. Of course he knew. Your staff are instructed to advise you of anything significant. I would have thought this was. A girl was raped in Parliament House. And you didn't know? I don't believe it for a second. No one does. And everyone knew that his response was more trying to protect his political skin rather than showing support for the girl. So what did he do? He came back onto the news and said, I spoke to my wife and she said, what if it was our daughters? You are the father of daughters. He needed to be reminded. Does it have to be something personal before he's outraged that a young woman was raped? I think most people would have more respect for our democracy, for our government, if they would at least acknowledge when they screw up. But they don't. What we have today is not what democracy is meant to be. They do not represent the people anymore. They represent their own interests or big corporations, not us, not everyone. They are more concerned about staying in power rather than doing what is morally or ethically right. That's why everyone votes by party lines and doesn't vote with their consciences. And a perfect example of that is what happened with Mr. Trump recently, where he was acquitted. Our democracy is a sham. It is a disgrace. It should not be called a democracy anymore because that is not what we have. And that is certainly not what democracy is supposed to be. I actually was going to end my video here, but something else happened which I felt it was necessary to talk about. But before I get onto that, I wanted to add that it has also come out recently that 2 other women, possibly more, were also sexually assaulted by the same man who raped the girl in Parliament House. And our Prime Minister is now reprimanding his staff for not letting him know. Goddamn coward. I do not believe that the Prime Minister did not know about these incidences. I really don't. All he is doing is trying to protect himself. And shame on him for trying to blame this on his staff. We still don't know what's going to happen with this case. I guess we will find out in due course. And the third thing that happened last week now is that Zuckerberg of Facebook decided to block all news coming out of Australian news services on Facebook. And not only that, he also blocked people overseas using any of the news from Australia on Facebook. In addition to which, during a pandemic, when we are looking to roll out the vaccine, he also blocked government health sites. He also blocked shelters and other services. The arrogance of the man. The absolute arrogance. And you know what makes it worse? He actually said, I do this with a heavy heart. Are you kidding me? Seriously. What a load of bullshit. He has a heart? I haven't seen any sign of it. Now you may wonder, why? Why would he do such a thing? It is to teach us a lesson. It relates to legislation that is currently before our Parliament, introducing a news media bargaining code of conduct. Basically, it is to force tech giants like Google and Facebook to negotiate fairly with news services in Australia. Basically, they will have to pay something to the news services in Australia for using some of their content or linking to their content. It isn't in relation to copyright, which is much stricter. It is more to level the playing field. Because let's be honest, Google and Facebook have a lot more power than, say, small news services in Australia. I have read that a lot of people are saying the only reason this code of conduct is going through our parliament is because Rupert Murdoch wants to get a bit of money, a bit of the action. And maybe it is a clash of the titans. I really don't know, and I really don't care. I have also read, however, that this code of conduct will also benefit smaller news groups, news businesses in Australia. And the truth is, Australia isn't the only country who is looking to get, say, Google or Facebook to pay their news services. I have also heard other countries wanting to introduce similar legislation, such as Canada. Now, I did read somewhere that Timothy Berners-Lee, who created the World Wide Web, is against this legislation in Australia. He states that it will no longer make the internet free. Really? It is free? How? Perhaps it was at the beginning, but nowadays you cannot go anywhere without being followed by ads, without being bombarded by ad after ad after ad. You need to scroll through dozens of ads before you can get to any content. If you ask me, that means it's not free. That is the price that we pay for this free internet. There is no such thing anymore. Originally, Google actually threatened to pull its search engine from Australia. And if you are on YouTube and you are a creator, you would have been inundated with messages from Google saying that this is what Australia is trying to do and it is going to affect the freedom of YouTube. Regardless, Google actually did back off slightly, and they entered into contracts with a lot of the news services in Australia. And they have also done so with other countries, I believe in France as well as England. So it has happened before. And I think partly they did so to preempt the effect of the legislation. I really don't know. I really don't care. I'm glad that they haven't pulled their search engine, but the fact that they even threatened is what concerns me. Now, Zuckerberg, on the other hand, decided, no, you do not get to tell me what to do, and I'm going to show you what will happen if you do not back off. Which is why he pulled or blocked all news from Australia on Facebook. Since when does a corporation get to dictate to a country, a government, as to policy, as to the kind of legislation that they can introduce? Since when? Because that is what this is. This is meant to put pressure on our government to back off. It is meant to put pressure on its citizens who use Facebook for their news feeds, for connecting with services, to get our government to back off. How dare he? How dare he? Because let's not forget, Facebook is a corporation whose main purpose it is to make money. It is not to better mankind. It is not to make our lives better whatsoever. No. Facebook may originally have been created to connect people, but now it's all about advertisement. You cannot go on Facebook without being inundated with ads, whose sole purpose it is to sell us things, to get us to spend money. Most people have no say as to who is going to run Facebook, as to what decisions or policies they will make. A government, on the other hand, is entirely different. It is elected by its people to represent them. And I acknowledge they don't always do a good job, and most of the time they screw up, but the truth is, at least I got a say as to who is running my country. What he did is bullying. Pure and simple. And do you know what I say to bullies? You can try. We don't need you. We do not need Facebook. If anything, what Zuckerberg did illustrates that we have the need for some social platform that is not controlled by an individual, by a corporation. We should have something instead that is government funded or a non-for-profit. I honestly believe that because I know a lot of Australians are very angry about this, that we are being bullied by a company, a corporation. When do we allow corporations to get so powerful that they feel they can do this with impunity? Corporations should never have more power than a government, than a country, not ever. And you know what is really ironic? Zuckerberg had threatened to do this, and then he did so with hardly any notice. And yet, no matter how often there's been pressure put on Facebook to block false news, conspiracy theories, hate speech on Facebook, apparently that is too hard. Yeah, no, it is hypocrisy at its worst, if you ask me. At the moment, our government hasn't backed down, and I bloody well hope they don't, because if it was up to me, I wouldn't even negotiate with him. I really would ban Facebook entirely. Well, I guess we will find out who blinks first. Okay, well that is all I have to say today. I know it's been a bit of a rant, but I think I can be excused for being angry with everything that has happened in the last week or so. Sometimes I really do despair of this world. I really thought that in 2021 we would be past some of these inequities that I see, and yet we're not. And I know some people think I shouldn't get so worked up. I disagree. I think we should all be angry when we see injustices. It shouldn't have to affect us personally before we give a damn. It really shouldn't. Anyway, thank you guys very much for listening to me ranting. You know I would love to hear your opinions on the subjects I raised today. And you can put it down in the comments, or you can contact me on Instagram, which I really want to get rid of, but I won't just yet. And as usual, if you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to my channel because it does help my channel to grow. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.